Real love, absolute love, is raw, it's severe, it's grave, it's bittersweet, it's uncompromising, it's sober, it's stark, it's serious, it's brutal, it's pensive, it's melancholic, it's relentless, it's radical. And this is what gets people so confused about the topic of love. They can't understand how, if everything is love, then how come we have all this crap going on in the world? See? But what's really happening is that you're confusing your own ego's needs and fears, which is distorting your picture of reality. And you're not seeing the love precisely because you're attached to being some particular way. You need love to be conditional. And so when you experience unconditional love, you misinterpret it in your mind actually as hate and as evil. And the very notion that unconditional love is love revolts you. Or at least it does most people. And what I'm telling you is that your job as a human being, this is really your only job in life, is to learn to embrace love as an absolute, unconditionally. Not on your terms, not in a way which would suit and please your ego or your survival, but in its actuality. To embrace reality as it is, warts and all. That's the hardest thing to do for a finite being. To learn to love all aspects of yourself. That's very hard to do because of the magnitude of what consciousness is. Infinite consciousness is terrifying because it includes possibilities which are threatening to any finite form. But that's what love is. Love is infinite consciousness. Love is not some part of reality. Love is the whole thing, with no exceptions. This makes love twisted and very counterintuitive, where things that don't seem like they're love actually are. But you need to take into account the massive distortion that the lens of the personal ego self creates, that distortion that creates an inability to truly see the love that is all around you at all times. Because you're so stuck in survival mode, your mind is always looking for advantages and looking for ways to survive. And the way you do that is you have created a sort of egoic form of conditional love. This is the sappy, sort of sweet, happy love that you've invented to make yourself feel good, which is a survival mechanism. You use that conditional love to manipulate reality to get what you want, to survive. And here I will refer you to my two-part series, Understanding Survival. It's very important for understanding what I'm talking about here. My notion of survival is much, much broader than you think or that you understand. That in fact, in general, what I noticed that even those of you who've watched those two episodes, you still have a very poor understanding of what survival is. Survival is such an important idea, and yet almost nobody really understands it. So go back and watch it again. Contemplate what survival is. There's an uncompromising aspect to reality, which actually many materialists misinterpret as evidence of the fact that there couldn't be a God, or the fact that reality is just totally indifferent, doesn't give a fuck about us. But actually, that's a misinterpretation of what love is. You know, people say, Leo, what love are you talking about when there's war and genocide and all this? But it's exactly the opposite of that. You see, that uncompromising aspect to reality, This is God refusing to soften reality to make it convenient for your ego. And why is that? Why doesn't God just suit reality to fit you perfectly so that you're living in a paradise? Because life needs to work not just for you, but for an infinite number of beings. See, you're so stuck thinking about how to make life good for you that you forget about the entire universe. If God behaved that way, the universe would be hell. See? God, on the other hand, needs to take the biggest picture possible and to take into account all possible living beings. What's good for everyone? What's good for the universe as a whole? Which means that sometimes things are not going to go necessarily the best for you individually, because you have to recognize, are just a tiny, tiny portion of a larger whole, and you need to accept where you fit into the grand scheme of things, which of course the ego doesn't want to do, because the ego is arrogant by definition. The ego wants the entire universe to revolve around it, and therein lies the whole problem. See? It's not just about you. So while you're complaining about war, you might say, well, but Leo, but you know, my country got bombed, so it's not about me, it's about my country. But still, your country is still you. Is still, even thinking of reality in terms of countries, or even thinking about reality in terms of the entire Earth. Like you might wonder, well, Leo, if an asteroid comes and hits the Earth tomorrow and kills everybody the same way it did supposedly 65 million years ago with the dinosaurs, you know, how is that for the greatest good of the universe? But you have to understand that you're looking at it from such a narrow perspective. You're looking at it from the perspective of Earth. Earth is like one out of trillions and trillions of planets. And even all that is just still one tiny speck in the larger scheme of things. See? So you got to be very careful not to get caught up in your own little personal agenda. It's very important to consider the big picture perspective here.